My own promise. I was always kind to others, but not to myself. I said yes even when I was tired. I blamed myself for little things. One evening, I looked in the mirror and felt tired of being my own enemy. So I made a promise. From now on, I will treat myself with kindness and care. I wrote this promise on a sticky note and put it on my wall. That small promise changed the way I lived. I started saying no. I rested more. I spoke to myself with love. Keeping that promise wasn't always easy, but it made life better. We often keep promises to others, so why not keep one to yourself? You matter too. Promise yourself kindness and keep it. Writing it down, my mind was overwhelmed. Too many thoughts. I felt stressed and lost. A friend handed me a notebook and said, "Write it down." I didn't know what to write, but I started anyway. I wrote about my worries, my dreams, and my day. Slowly, my mind began to feel lighter. Writing helped me understand my emotions. It revealed patterns I hadn't noticed before. It became a safe space, no judgment, no rules. Some days, I wrote just one sentence. Other days, I filled an entire page. But every time, I felt better. Writing doesn't fix every problem, but it helps you see things more clearly. If your heart feels heavy, pick up a pen. Write it down. Let your words lead the way. Early wake up. I used to hate mornings. I always hit the snooze button. My days felt rushed and messy. One day, I tried waking up just 30 minutes earlier. At first, it was difficult, but soon I began to enjoy the quiet. I made tea, stretched, and read a little. I felt calm before the day began. That sense of peace stayed with me all day. I had more time and made fewer mistakes. I stopped rushing. I felt more in control. Now, mornings are my favorite part of the day. Waking up early isn't magic, but it gives you a better start. Try it. Give yourself time before the world begins. You might discover peace in the most unexpected places. A brave act. One day, my friend fell while playing. Everyone was scared, but I quickly ran to help. I called a teacher, and she took care of him. Later, my friend thanked me. I felt happy and proud. Being brave means helping others, even when things seem difficult. The magic of books. Books take us to different worlds. They teach us new things and improve our imagination. I love reading stories about adventures and heroes. Books are my best friends. They never get old, and I can read them again and again. Reading makes me happy and smarter. A trip to the beach. I went to the beach with my family. The sand was soft, and the water was cool. I built sand castles and collected seashells. We enjoyed the waves and ate ice cream. The sunset was beautiful. It was a perfect day, and I loved every moment of it. Helping others. Helping others makes me happy. I help my parents at home, and I help my friends in school. When I see someone in need, I try to be kind. Even small help, like sharing food or books, can bring joy to others. Helping people makes the world better. My favorite hobby. My favorite hobby is painting. I love using different colors to create beautiful pictures. Painting makes me feel happy and relaxed. I paint nature, animals, and my family. Sometimes, I gift my paintings to my friends. My hobby helps me express my feelings in a creative way. The joy of sharing. Sharing makes people happy. When I share my toys, my friends smile. I also share my lunch with those who forget theirs. It feels good to help others. Sharing is a small act, but it brings joy to everyone. A kind heart is the best thing to share. A visit to my grandparents. I love visiting my grandparents. They tell me interesting stories and give me sweets. My grandmother cooks delicious food, and my grandfather takes me for walks. I feel safe and happy at their house. Spending time with them is always special. I love my grandparents a lot. The kind stranger. One day, I got lost in the market. A kind man helped me find my parents. He spoke gently and made me feel safe. My parents thanked him for his kindness. I learned that small acts of kindness can make a big difference in someone's life. My grammar struggles. Grammar used to be very hard for me. At first, I didn't understand anything. Past tense, present tense, future tense all confused me. I made mistakes. A lot of mistakes, but I kept going. I read grammar books. I watched grammar videos. I repeated simple sentences. I go. I went. I will go. Again and again. It was slow. It wasn't easy, but I didn't give up. I told myself, mistakes are okay. I laughed at my own mistakes. I learned from them. Every day, I improved. One small rule at a time. Grammar is still tricky, but now I'm not afraid of it anymore. I face it with practice. I face it with patience. I struggled, but I learned. 5 more minutes. I didn't want to study. I felt lazy and tired, but instead of giving up, I told myself, just 5 more minutes. I set a timer. When the alarm rang, I felt better, so I kept going. That little trick helped me complete a full hour of studying. If something feels too big, make it smaller. Just 5 more minutes. That's all it takes to move forward. I started using it every day for cleaning, reading, or exercising. It became easier to begin when the goal was small. Sometimes 5 minutes turned into 20. Other times it didn't, but at least I had started. That's what matters. I learned that starting is the hardest part. Letting go. I used to hold on to old problems. I kept thinking about past mistakes over and over again. It made me feel heavy and sad. One day, I wrote everything down on paper. My worries, my regrets, my anger. Then I folded the paper and threw it away. I didn't forget everything, but I felt lighter. I realized I didn't need to carry every memory forever. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means making space for peace. Life becomes easier when your heart isn't filled with old pain. Since then, whenever my mind feels full, I write it out and release it. I move on faster. I breathe easier. Letting go is a gift you give to yourself. My own promise. I had always been kind to others, but not to myself. I often said yes, even when I was tired. I blamed myself for the smallest things. One evening, as I looked into the mirror, I felt exhausted from constantly being my own enemy. That night, I made a promise to myself. From now on, I will treat myself with care. I wrote that promise on a sticky note and placed it on my wall. And that small act changed the way I lived. I started saying no when I needed to. I gave myself more rest. I began speaking to myself with kindness and understanding. Keeping that promise wasn't always easy, but it made life better. We often keep promises to others, so why not keep one for ourselves? You matter too. Promise yourself kindness and truly mean it. Welcome to English Upgrade, your home for meaningful stories told in simple English. Today's story is titled, A Unique Experience, a real-life tale that will touch your heart and leave you thinking deeply about kindness, integrity, and silent strength. Listen carefully, and if the story moves you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's begin. A unique experience. It was a cold and windy evening in early winter. The city was slowly falling into silence as the streetlights flickered on, and most people rushed home to escape the chilly air. My friend Arjun and I had finally found time to meet after almost a year. Life had taken us in different directions, and between work, family, and responsibilities, we had drifted apart. But tonight, we were together again, and we just couldn't stop talking. We sat on a park bench near the central square, under a dim street lamp, completely absorbed in our conversation. We laughed about memories from our school days, shared stories about our new jobs, talked about relationships, and dreamed about the future. Hours slipped by without us even noticing. Our fingers were numb from the cold, but we stayed, wrapped in memories and friendship. By the time we looked at the clock, it was already close to 10 p.m. We realized it was late and decided to go home. The buses had already stopped running, and our legs were too tired to walk such a long distance. So we agreed to take an auto rickshaw. Pulling our jackets tighter against the wind, we walked to the main road and began waving at the passing rickshaws. The road wasn't very crowded, but there were a few tuk-tuks driving by. We tried flagging them down, but one after another passed us without stopping. Some drivers turned their heads away, and others simply ignored us. It had started to drizzle by now, and the cold had grown even sharper. We stood by the roadside, our shoulders slowly getting wet, and our patience beginning to wear thin. Just then, a rickshaw slowed down and came to a stop near us. The driver was a thin man, with tired eyes but a kind face, who quietly looked at us. "Where to?" the driver asked softly. We told him our destination without asking the fare. He simply said, "Please, get in." We looked at each other and replied, "Thank you, sir," then stepped into the vehicle, grateful that someone had finally stopped for us. The tuk-tuk rattled and clattered as it started moving. I noticed there was a small hole in the plastic sheet covering the side, letting in cold wind and light drizzle. Arjun and I tucked our hands into our sleeves to stay warm. After a few minutes, I turned to the driver and said, "Sir, could you stop by a tea stall or a small restaurant? We'd love to have a cup of hot tea. It's really cold tonight." The driver nodded silently and steered the tuk-tuk toward a small tea stall, glowing warmly with yellow lights. The air was filled with the scent of boiling milk and spices. We got out and quickly ordered 2 steaming cups of masala tea. The stall was very simple: a tin roof, wooden benches, and a small fire burning in the corner. I looked back and saw the driver still sitting quietly in his seat. I called out, "Why don't you come have a cup of tea with us?" He smiled gently and shook his head. "Thank you, sir, but I'll wait here." I was a bit surprised. "It's cold, sir. Come warm yourself up with a cup of tea." He smiled again. "It's all right. Thank you. I'm fine." Arjun joined in. "Why not, sir? Is it because you don't like this tea shop?" The driver looked away briefly and replied softly, "No, sir. It's just, I don't feel like having tea right now." I didn't understand. It was cold. He was working. A cup of tea would help him stay warm and awake. I insisted once more. "Just 1 cup, sir. It won't do any harm." But he still refused. "I'm sorry, sir. Please don't take it the wrong way." Arjun asked again, "Do you avoid eating or drinking outside?" He answered quietly, "No, not at all." At that point, I began to feel confused and a little embarrassed. There was nothing rude in his voice, only something quiet and deep that I couldn't explain. I said to Arjun, "Let it be." If he doesn't want tea, we shouldn't push him. We finished our tea, got back into the tuk-tuk, and continued our journey. The rest of the ride was mostly silent. I kept thinking about the driver's strange refusal. There was something about him that felt heavy, like he was carrying a deep pain within. About 15 minutes later, we arrived home. The fare on the meter was reasonable, and we paid him accordingly. He thanked us politely and was about to drive away. But something inside me wouldn't let him go. Maybe it was the quiet tone of his voice, or the look in his eyes. I walked over to the driver's side and gently said, "Pa, if you don't mind me asking, why didn't you join us for a cup of tea? You've been working late in this cold weather. It's okay if you didn't want to. I'm just curious." The driver looked at me for a moment, then lowered his gaze. After a brief silence, he said something that shook me to my core. "My son passed away this afternoon, sir. He met with an accident." His voice cracked slightly, but remained calm. "I don't have enough money for his funeral, so I made a vow that I would not drink even a sip of water until I've earned enough for his last rites." We stood there in stunned silence. He continued, "I don't want to take money from anyone, sir. I just need a few more rides. In another hour or two, I'll have enough. That's why I'm still driving. Please don't misunderstand me." My heart dropped. Arjun looked away, his eyes filled with tears. I fumbled in my wallet and pulled out some extra cash. "Please," I said, "this is for your son. It's not charity, it's our prayer for him." But he folded his hands and shook his head. "Thank you for your kindness, sir, but I want to do this on my own. Let me earn it. That's the only thing I can do for my son now." With that, he gave a small nod and slowly drove away into the night. We stood there for a long time, not frozen by the cold, but by what we had just witnessed. We had offered him a cup of tea as an act of kindness, but he had shown us something far greater: strength, dignity, and a kind of love that words cannot describe. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that man, his quiet voice, his tired eyes, his unbelievable courage. In a world where many ask for help, even when they don't need it, here was a man in deep pain who refused to beg. A man who was hungry, grieving, and exhausted, yet still chose to keep his promise to his son. In life, we meet many people. Some stay in our memory for what they say, others for what they do. But a few, like that rickshaw driver, stay with us forever because of who they are. Thank you for listening to this emotional story on English Upgrade. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment below and tell us what you felt. Like and share it with someone who believes in the goodness of humanity. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring, meaningful stories told in simple English. Until next time, stay kind, stay strong, and keep learning. See you again soon.